Hey everyone, Jon here! And September 2024 was flippin' loaded with games. I think this may have been the most busy month of the year, for my personal tastes at the very least, and there's still some games that came out this month that I didn't play. So I've counted around 8 that I want to talk about, and let's begin with something that's been added to the shelf recently, being, give me a second, knocked something down there. The Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom. Now, we are going to be doing a full review of this game from Steve, but I want to get my thoughts out really quick. So, I spent around 4 days 100%ing this game, and it was an utter joy to do that. We haven't had a 2D Zelda game since Triforce Heroes or Link Between Worlds, if you want to count like a more traditional mainline game, and that game, while wonderful, it also owes so much of its legacy and what it does to A Link to the Past. So really, we haven't had a fully, from the ground up, completely new ideas, new world 2D game since Spirit Tracks. So this one's been a long time coming, and man, did it deliver. I had a few worries going in. I thought, given that there are a lot of similarities to A Link to the Past's world, that it's going to feel like a redo of Link Between Worlds, and it really doesn't. The world is more like stumbling along Lon Lon Ranch in Breath of the Wild. That doesn't make it Ocarina of Time's world just because you found a landmark. The vast majority of its world design is entirely its own. And what I really love about Echoes of Wisdom is, and I don't think this has really been done before in a top-down game, is it just allows you to go anywhere. Like, you can just climb on background trees and walk over what seems to be an invisible wall and it just leads to another area. And when it comes to 100%ing, that is such a game changer. There are so many other Zelda games where you've got to go through little dungeons again or make your way through those more linear overworld sections. But here you can just forge your own path wherever you go. There was a part when scaling the mountain, I thought maybe I'd have to go through all of these tunnels again. But no, I just spawned a cloud and walked up to the top. Just kept climbing, and that worked absolutely fine. And of course, the main gimmick of this is echoes. You can just find anything from across the entire Zelda series, and brand new things too, and put it on your side, whether it's a monster, or a pot, or a bed, or a water block. Water block is my main. And there's so many different ways to come about puzzles. That improvisation of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom has found its way into 2D. I have a few issues with it. I thought the first 2 dungeons were very walk here and talk to this person, as in the quest before the dungeons. They were very much like NPC, NPC, NPC. It didn't feel like you had much involvement. It was very wordy at that point. But after those 2 dungeons, it changes. It becomes far more hands-on and about how you interact with the world and these characters and what you're actually doing to affect them. So after those first 2, it really does just become something way better. Another issue I had is sometimes it seemed the game design was kind of counter to the freedom. So there was one moment in the Gerudo Desert where I went through a cave without starting the main quest. And I thought I was going to get a heart piece or something, but at the very end was just this dead end with some torches and a casket. And there was nothing to do. So I left. And then it turned out during the main quest, that puzzle set piece that I'd already done, I had to go through again to finally figure out what that dead end was. So there's a few moments like that where you'll stumble across story segments by accident and you just can't do anything. It's like any other part of the world apart from you just can't do anything about them at that point. And that was a shame. The music also, I think the overworld theme's wonderful. There's a town theme I really love, but it's a town that you're barely there for more than a minute. But for the most part, the music's just kind of there. It's lovely, it's really well recorded, but it's not something I'm gonna really remember that well. But Echoes of Wisdom is a game that is so compact, so concise. There's so many things crammed into this world that every moment of its runtime feels like it's justified, like it's doing something and throwing something at you at every moment. And I had an utter amazing time playing through this and doing everything I could. Just what a wonderful game. Now, let's move on to Astrobot. I was gifted a digital copy, so here's the VR game to hold. Astrobot for PlayStation 5. Also, a wonderful game. And one thing that I've really loved about seeing the reception to this is I saw someone bought Ape Escape because they played Astrobot. And it's amazing that a game is pushing legacy PlayStation. It's a side that is very hard to push. I've tried in the past, and I think the Nintendo bubble loves legacy. The PlayStation bubble, a bit trickier because they don't really do games like Astrobot. And so to see people play this game and then go back to playing Loco Roco or Ape Escape that's all I can ask for. And to see people playing a 3D platformer outside of Nintendo, also amazing. That said, I think a little bit of Astrobot may have been lost on me because I have played so many platformers. I remember seeing on Twitter there were all these videos showing oh, look how hard this level is. And I watched one of those clips, and that clip I did on my first try. There are a few other ones out there. It took me a couple of tries, but really it's a very easy game. And even those challenging shape levels weren't much of a challenge. So I think it's great for people who don't typically play 3D platformers, and for people who maybe have nostalgia for PlayStation but haven't really explored that nostalgia in a while. I think this is going to reignite that and maybe set you on a path with 3D platformers, and for that I love it. And just the general playthrough is pure happiness. Every level feels like it's doing something cool. Not necessarily something you've not seen before. In fact, a lot of power-ups and mechanics I've definitely seen before, but they recontextualize them in a really cool way. Everything has two functions or more. And so it's just kind of amazing just to play through. And I also think there's some really great original power-ups as well. I love the dual froggy, arms punches that you can use to either punch enemies or grapple around or pull on things. That's great. I love the slow down time mechanic where you can just pause things in the environment and make yourself jump around. And what I really found with Astrobot is after 100%ing it, which was, again, like Echoes of Wisdom, was a pleasure to do, I found that the levels didn't have that much value to them if you aren't exploring. So I went through and tried to sort of speedrun the game, and I kind of just didn't have a great time doing it that way. I think Astrobot's at its best when you are looking around every nook and cranny for those PlayStation cameos, because it's so delightful when you find one that you recognize or one that you don't recognize, because then you've got to figure out who they are. But when you aren't looking around for those bots, they're pretty basic levels, to be honest. I found that it only really lets you play in one way. There isn't really a lot of versatility to Astrobot. So while it is amazing in that first playthrough, I don't really think it holds its own for a second visit. And that was a bit disappointing. But that first visit, mwah, brillianto. Now, let's talk about another game I actually added to the shelf, which is something I've talked about already on the channel. Didn't knock anything down that time. Emio, the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club. I won't talk about this one too much because it's an entirely story-based game. I don't want to spoil a single thing. But Emio is one of my most cherished games right now. It is a game that manages to bring all these smaller elements together and deliver a satisfying conclusion without hitting you over the head with mystery the entire time. You are slowly building your own expectations for what you think is going to happen, and that ending just sets things on a completely different path. It is one of the most satisfying epilogues I've ever experienced in a game, and it's just very, very special. I think that's all I'm really going to say about Emio. Technically, this released late August, but I finished it in September, so I'm talking about it now. And now, those are the physical games I'm pretty sure that I bought this month. So let's talk about Grapple Dogs. So the first Grapple Dog was a really cool game. You play as a dog, you've got a grapple hook, you can swing around, you can bounce, cool. Grapple Dogs, though, Cosmic Canines, is just more. It's more stuff. You got another playable character who has a gun this time. You've got more versatile levels, like one that takes place in a noir setting. It doesn't go through those basic grass and lava themes. It's really going out there with aliens and monkey world and all that stuff. It is just so fun to play. From moment to moment, it's just pure enjoyment with Grapple Dogs. You are going back and forth between two playable characters, and there is a bit of whiplash with that. Sometimes you maybe, from muscle memory, try and use a move that belongs to another. So that's maybe one thing that could have been tightened a little bit. And the story is a bit yappy at times too. But the world design, the level design, the actual movement is so nice, and it's really cool to revisit levels once you've grasped those movement mechanics, especially because your repertoire builds as you go on. So Grapple Dogs is just pure fun, just a mechanically really good game, something I highly recommend. Now, let's talk about the Plucky Squire. This is a game I've been following for literally years. It comes from talent behind Pokemon Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield Pokemon designs. And I think you can tell from the look of it that this is a game that comes from an artist, a visual artist. Plucky Squire is a very imaginative game. It takes a mechanic very similar to A Link Between Worlds, where you go in and out of the real world and illustrations. And in terms of what it achieves, what it pulls off with its gimmicks, it is stunning. What they've built here is exceptional. However, I think it is a little bit style over substance. There are points in Plucky Squire where the answer is just hit over the head with you. I'm like, let me figure this out on my own, please. It's rather basic in areas. It has clever intent, but it just doesn't deliver on that intent all the time. It kind of does that Barbara Is You thing in the books, where you've got to replace a word with something else in the book. So you go and find another word, and say like a river's completely empty, you go and find the word full. Instead of the river's empty, you replace empty with full, and the river fills up. That's a really cool mechanic, but it's never really explored in a way that challenges you intellectually or at all, really. And the combat's kind of basic too. I think this game has so many good ideas, though. Like, the mini games are really fleshed out and fun. It looks super polished. I love platforming around the real world. I love how it manages to mix those mechanics together from the real world and the illustrated world. The intent is so good, and it also kind of falls apart at the end too, though. Like, the final act is not as good as the rest of the game. So Plucky Squire is a little bit of a rough gem. It's something that I kind of wish just had a few more years. I know it's in development for a long time anyway, but I wish I had a few more years just to really find itself, because there's clearly something great in there, but it didn't quite land for me. Now, let's talk about UFO 50. I wasn't really following this game. I know it's been in development for like 7 or 8 years, and I knew of it, but I wasn't really actively looking into it. And so when I saw this praise online, saying it's like one of the best games ever, game of the year, I decided I wouldn't look a single thing up. I'll just dive on in and see what I thought. And so I think you should experience it the same way. But I guess like I did with Emio, let me tell you my feelings about it. So UFO 50 is a collection of 50 legacy games that don't really exist. There's this overall narrative of like this pretend publisher who made all these games in a lost era, and they've been found. And so you have 50 full, like, NES-style games. They're not mini games. Each one of them is a fully fleshed out game. And you have the ability to just dip in and out of any one that you want to. And I'm not going to say that every single one of them is a masterpiece, but a lot of them are. A lot of them are genuinely some of the best of that kind of field of game. And there's a couple of them in there which are probably familiar to stuff you've played. Like, there's some that play like Contra, but there's other ones that are just innovating in ways that I've never seen before. It's a compilation of 50 games, and a big chunk of them are actually completely visionary pieces of media, which is wild. And I think that's all I should really say. I think you should just give it a go yourself. Just dip in and out of each game. See which ones click with you. Not everyone will. Some of them will feel kind of slow. But I think even the slow ones you kind of stick with. I think you'll learn to appreciate. But yeah, UFO 50, what a cool one. Now, let's move on to Hollow Body. Another game I've been following for a while. Very Silent Hill inspired. Kind of futuresque in London, but those Silent Hill desolate vibes. A lot of psychological stuff going on too. So at the start of the game, you're going through this flat complex. It's all like locked down, and you've got to go through each room, trying to just sort of slowly weave your way through the web. And it is a chilling game with big PlayStation 2 energy. everything from the tech to the way things look just feels like Silent Hill 3 kind of era. And that comes down to the mechanics too. You kind of get a mix of third person and also sort of fixed camera angles, and they're gorgeous. At some points, they can look pre-rendered with those fixed angles. They can look just utterly stunning. Now, this game doesn't do everything exceptionally well, but what it does do well is the vibes. So the combat itself, it's basic. You lock on, you shoot, or you whack kind of clunkily. It is what it is. Combat's not the focus of this game. In fact, I ran past most encounters. But what really is great about this game is, as I was saying earlier, getting through that web. Just sort of taking each strand down each time until you eventually make your way through to the center. And it slowly sort of opens up and gets more involved. So once you're done with those flats, you take to the streets, and it feels a little bit like kind of Raccoon City-ish. And it's rather open, too. There's a lot of that cryptic design. It's not too cryptic, but it makes your brain feel good when you work things out. And while the environments aren't huge, the backtracking is done incredibly well, too. One flaw I had with Hollow Body is I was saving my ammo for a big chunk of the game. It's like it gives you like a crossbow and a shotgun. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to waste this on just regular enemies. I'm going to save this for, big boss time. Big boss time never came. There's like one moment where it locks you in a room with I guess what you can call a boss. But the finale uses a bespoke weapon, so the ammo you use does not matter. So if you're playing through Hollow Body, blast away. Don't save your ammo. There are multiple endings, and I am intrigued to play again and try and get another one. But what the ending I had was, it was all right. But I think Hollow Body is a game that is really good in the moment, and there's moments upon reflection where I wish things were a little bit tighter. I wish things were a bit more satisfying, but I still had a really, really good time with Hollow Body. Now, let's talk about Broken Sword, Shadows of the Templar Reforged. I grew up with this game, kind of. I have a vague memory of playing this on my PC, and I don't think I got very far as a kid, but coming back to this remaster, memories just came flooding back. Early memories, early game memories, I should say. But what I love about this remaster, and it's something I wish all remasters would do, is it has that Halo Anniversary toggle where you can just go back and forth between the original and the remastered visuals. And Broken Sword has that sort of low-res 2D art that only really looks good on a CRT. Otherwise, it's very chunky, very compressed, doesn't stand out too well in the HD era. So flipping back and forth between what it was and what it is now is just it's a stunning transition, and they've done a great job remastering this game. It's definitely still that 90s era point and click, where not everything you do is always going to make sense. Like sometimes you'll be clicking your inventory, waiting for the right thing, clicking everywhere to figure out where you're meant to go. But they've added some quality of life stuff in there as well. It's like if you get stuck and you can't figure out what to click on, after a certain amount of time, which you can customize, it will glow where you're meant to click. So it doesn't keep you stuck the way that the original may have. But yeah, it's just a really, really nice remaster. And if you have any memories of the original, you should definitely give it a go. And even if not, I think this is one of the pivotal and coolest point and clicks out there. And that goat is still a little bitch. And I think those are the 8 games I want to talk about. There's definitely stuff that released in this month that I didn't play that I will in the future. I'm waiting for a physical copy of the Marvel vs. Capcom collection. Dead Rising remaster, I'll probably play at some point. Worms Armageddon, I'll probably play at some point. A lot of remastered stuff that I am going to wait to play. But I'm really, really satisfied with the quantity I played and just the quality of what I played as well. And this isn't even everything I played this month. There's a few legacy games like Dark Cloud 2, which I played for the first time. Mwah, brilliant game. Absolutely wonderful. But yeah, I'm really glad. MEO and Echoes of Wisdom and Astrobot, even if I didn't enjoy it as much as on the same level as a lot of other people, were all magnificent. It's nice to 100% games again. Since having kids, it's been quite difficult to find the time to do that. But they both reached an age where I can kind of just chip away at things again. Very nice with the Switch too, because you can just sort of sit down whenever you want to, pick it up and just find a shard in Zelda. But yeah, really great month for games, and I'm not sure any month this year will top this stuff. Maybe October is a contender, but even then, I don't think so. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and because you watched all the way until the end, it is Hot Take time. And you may have realized recently, I've not been doing Hot Take time as much. And you know why? You know, this is a hot take about hot takes now. I'm getting a bit tired of them. I'm getting a bit tired of hot takes. I don't need to know all the things you hate. I want some nice, positive takes. I'm getting bored of being negative. I want to just embrace the stuff I love. And so this may be the last hot take time, unless I feel spicy about something in the future. That doesn't mean I'm going to be like positive all the time, but I want to. That's always been what I've wanted to do with videos. I want to spread positivity about the things I love, and not just fixate on the things I don't. That is my hot take. I think that's a good way to live life. Anyway, this just turned into a lesson about morality and, bye everyone.